Greetings, everyone. I am just sitting down and I'm going to draw. And what I have in mind is just simply another version of a dragon. But this time it's just going to be, well, I'll see what kind of falls out of my head. And as it falls out, I'll pin it down onto the paper here. So let's see if we can zoom in just a little bit. Maybe to here to start. And see if we can focus on this pen. All right. So I'm just going to scratch out kind of an eye first. Maybe I went too big. I don't know. Make some room for the eyelids. I don't want to put in too much detail just in case I don't like this, but I will live with whatever goes on with this. That's the rule of my sketchbook. Well, kind of the rule. Doesn't have to be that way. So I don't know if I want it to be so cutesy is the other issue. But it can be. I'm also trying to consider that it's possible that the creature itself gets older and changes along with that. So I don't know. We'll see what happens here. Like, it's strange, in my head I would like to think that these things are semi-solid rather than just growths of sorts. Actually, let's move those and we'll turn those into bonus scales. So yeah, I'm not really sure functionality of some of these things that grow out of the back of the head. Now, is that okay? They have a thicker neck. Kind of a wider, let's say, radial and ulna bones of the forearm. and almost like a hidden wrist and hand, which I will just kind of turn immediately into claws or talons. Now the wings to me, I think, are kind of like a mimic of these. So you'd have like the humerus and then the radial ulna bones. So I think it mimics that. And then for the hands, that's the wing part, if that makes sense. At least that's how I kind of picture that part of the anatomy. Now, I don't know if it's necessary for it to be as thick, but I'm making this up as I go. So almost the same kind of length there, and then almost the same length here. And these would be like super extended hands, and then the way they would separate the fingers become the wings. But anyway, just playing around with ideas. Let's move this up just a little bit. Look at the hip. As you've probably heard me say more than twice, I'm not into trying to copy something. I very much would like to see, well, is it possible that I could kind of figure certain things out on my own? that's roughly where I'm going with that. Now to sort of add in some extra bonus details just for fun. And maybe, let's see what we can do to bring it out of kind of the sketch mode. I'm going to drop in there just a little bit closer. Now it's funny, if you read books that are eventually turned into movies or television shows, there's this sort of thing that they do with copyrighted material, where they change a certain percentage of the story. They'll get the main story, but they'll say that it's an adaptation. There's a lot of details that they just can't put into the movies. And another reason for that is that they need to create new copyrights and often create new characters or character designs. So let's say one of your favorite books is illustrated by someone very specific. Unless that person's involved in the character design for the movie, they pretty much come up with a brand new concept. And somebody else is given credit, and they'll say that it's based on descriptions from the author or what have you. But they will change things. I always find that interesting. I'll admit the look of Toothless to me is really strange. So in that last drawing that I did, you would have heard me say that I think Toothless looks a little bit like a cat, a bat, and a salamander. But you don't really want to just come up with another character that looks like something that already exists. So, somebody had to sit in a room somewhere and say, well, this is what we're expecting. And we want it to be very different at the same time, so that no one else who has a trademarked character would come along and say, well, you've taken from me. I want a piece of whatever it is you're doing. So they did pretty good to come up with something that's completely different than what I would say, well, this is what I expect dragons to look like. And of course, they like to think about marketing and what have you as well. So if the toys are going to be cool. I guess we have George Lucas to thank for that. Well, the concept of making sure that you have merchandising kind of tied in, and that way you can take home some of the awesome I'm just squiggling in some lines here. Some scales. I'll add a little bit more darkness to these ridge lines. And these little tiny spikes. Let's see what we can do about these front arms and yes. Now, I didn't really put consideration into looking up what what these things look like, the talons. I'm kind of making this part up. But I did watch like a few clips in the trailer a bunch of times. Well, I shouldn't say a bunch of times, just a bunch of different ones. I tried to make note in my head of what certain things kind of looked like, but it's pretty tough to do. At least I find it kind of tough. have a slight understanding of anatomy anyway. But something I couldn't notice or couldn't see from watching those clips was the possibility of like an opposable thumb, and I didn't bother to go into research to find out if they had them. Didn't seem like they did. It just seemed like they kind of like work with 4 talons, but maybe there's like one back here and they kind of keep it hidden. I don't know, almost like a dew claw. But I couldn't see it in any of the little moving clips. So I'm keeping them hidden for now until I find out otherwise, if I do any other drawings. I think perhaps for the next sit down video I'll just draw a random dragon that doesn't really look like anything in particular. I'll just make up something and not have it look similar to what you might see in How to Train Your Dragon. Just for my own sake. I'm going to show a slight separation of the bones that would be in here. Because then, you know, muscle will go over that, and tendons and all that kind of neat stuff. A singular bone up here. Let's see here. I would think for the most part they don't spend a lot of time walking if they can help it. But when they're at rest, of course, they have to be somewhere where they can kind of lay down. Let's back this out a little bit. So I'll like give it a little bit of a hamstring. I may have unnecessarily put some talons in here. I already have the leg twisted in such a way that I'm going to make those kind of obsolete. But yeah, I don't know if there would be one floating around the back for gripping onto things. Let's see here. It's kind of weird to fill in certain gaps with this kind of stuff. Especially when you freehand draw it in and just live with the mistakes. That's always fun. Just darkening the outside lines. Made that commitment. trying to think. Would those be a little bit more attached here or here? Yeah, I'm not really sure. But maybe they'd be shorter here and longer here. I don't know. Kind of like a coattail. But I do think that they kind of fan out in flight. Oh, there would be experts in this. But I'm not going to copy someone's expertise, and I'm not going to go any further than just sort of like a passing fancy, as some might say. I'm going to go up here to the wing, and I don't want to go too much further in the drawing anyway. Okay. Next, and amongst the last things that I'll do, I'll make sure that there is a secondary wing. In the background. Because I was thinking that the head was hiding this because of this arm is kind of forward, so the wing would be more that way. But when I first started to doodle this out, I was considering that perhaps the dragon was climbing on the side of a mountain. So yeah, I thought, okay, well, let's have the head hiding the other upper part of the wing. In case you're wondering what my mindset was with that, but Put a little bit on there anyway of perhaps that's what I have on the go. Going back up here. I think I'll just finish off a few things and then just let this out of my head for a little bit. Final detail around the face. And then I'll put down the pen. And that is probably going to be it. All right, well, I don't think I need to go really any further than that for my sketchbook. I think that's okay for now. All right then, folks, well, let us say that is it. Thanks for hanging out for a minute or so, and yeah, hopefully we'll see you at some point in the near future. All right, ciao for now.